Luke, where are you? What is it?
My place. I'm at home. I'm at home.
Okay.
It's giving Cliff in the trailer. Like,
Luke, can you put some stuff on your walls? Like, where's a
What?
picture frame of us or
you,
something?
maybe
Oh,
Cliff can
he's
like
got
give
the
you
one
a
thing.
quarter of his painting as
Yeah.
some art.
Quarter,
And
please.
with that, with Luke showing off his apartment, we're gonna go ahead and get this going. What we saw on HBO's Hard Knocks, Cameron Cox, Lena Washington, Luke Liddon, our producer Jeff Vinton. Guys, Lena, how about ladies first? What'd you think?
Well, first of all, I love Hard Knocks, whether it's in season, training camp, whatever team they are covering, I am interested because they just do a phenomenal job top to bottom with this storytelling, the writing of whatever Liev Schreiber is saying, which I just got a note when we get to it. I loved everything except for the whole losing part of this whole. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay.
She got so excited, just losing headphones and stuff.
Well, I was hearing my echo. Can I do that again? I was hearing my echo. I loved everything. I loved the storytelling. I loved the inside, the huddle that we were hoping to get into with Cliff and Hop and Kyler from the Seahawks game. Didn't love seeing Buda Baker get hurt. And when that happened, and Kyler Murray tweaking his hamstring, which we came back from practice today, actually, to find out that he did not practice. It was a closed walkthrough, so we didn't actually get to see him in action. But the writing, the storytelling that we're going to see, Buda Baker putting his name on the map as the guy you want to run through a brick wall for. If people didn't know, now
His
they know.
sister's now going to be a star too. Is that right?
Absolutely. And a Sun Devil, it sounds like. So if you need a tour, Mary, I got you, girl.
Luke, how about you? What you think?
I have been dying to. I said to you guys all week long. I wonder if we're going to hear what D Hop and Kyler said to each other. I wonder if we're going to hear what they said on the sidelines. And what was it that D Hop said? He said, "What are you looking at, bro? I'm trying to win." And Kyler,
it looked like that, Luke. It looked like he was wide open on that seam route down the field, and Hop came back to the sideline and he said, basically, what are you looking at, bro? I'm trying to win. I think Kyler said something along the back. I'll get you the ball, bro. And then he told him the same thing he told Cliff, right? Calm down.
It seems to be his go-to line, yeah.
It's also worth noting that Kyler saw D-Hop open in the film from the previous game in Minnesota where he realized, man, I should have hit him there. So, again, that's where film study comes into play, I guess.
And to piggyback off what Lina said, I love the storytelling, the music. It really sets the mood. The opening sequence was so great when Kyler's smashing his helmet in the locker room. It just really gets you amped up for the show. But it really felt very made sense for what he was doing because that's what the season's felt like the entire time. You just want to smash your helmet because so many missed opportunities, right?
I feel like we've seen a lot of smashing the helmets. You know what I mean? Like we've been in the post game room a few times at their State Farm Stadium, and it sounds like somebody has thrown a chair, thrown a helmet, smashed a board, something like that.
Well, whoever was asked, I think it was Marcus Golden, he was asked about the loud boom that we heard after that Seahawks loss. He wouldn't say what it was or if there was one at all, but we definitely heard something through the walls at State Farm Stadium after that disappointing loss.
Producer JV, what did you have from this episode that stood out?
Well, I mean, you guys covered so much of it, but I mean, I gotta love Cliff at the beginning. He just was immediately throwing out the curse words and showing that he actually does care. I feel like a lot of times we can just kind of we get the soft version of Cliff, so it's good to see the hard version. He kind of mentioned that we might see some of that early today in his press conference, so it was good to see that.
They also talked that he wasn't gonna cuss, and all of a sudden,
yeah.
No. He didn't say he didn't cuss. He said he doesn't do it often, and he doesn't like to do it. It's not in his nature. But we heard a couple good F-bombs from Sean Jefferson and a couple of the coaches, which, hey, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah,
but we need a counter now.
Either, but it's definitely in his nature. It's definitely in his nature. JV, what were you saying about the house?
I love seeing it. Cliff, we've seen it since that draft. Cliff has an amazing house, so it was cool to see more of it. And then the artwork was just insane. The Lion King picture, and then the DC artwork. I just thought it was just absolutely insane. So I thought that was fun to see.
That's such a Leo to put a photo up of the tiger saying, "Oh, I'm a Leo." Look, that's such a Leo characteristic. That was hilarious to see him
And
do
to
that.
That's the
justify it
first
by
thing
saying
Lena
you are
said.
a Leo.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a Pisces, so you know.
That's the first thing Lena said when that was up there. He's like, "Oh, he's of course, of course." And then you go to his movie room. It has like a weird painting of Batman, a weird painting of the Joker. Also, not a lot on his wall. So, like, I remember when that teaser trailer came out when he was sitting in that office, and we gave him a hard time about it. He joked that he looked like he was in prison out there at State Farm Stadium. Had nothing on the wall, but turns out that's kind of like his real house. There's not much on the wall. It's just a nice house.
And it was funny when he said, "Yeah, I don't read any outside media." And I was thinking, I'm like, it's probably a smart thing because every week on Text Team 12, we don't get the nicest texts about Cliff. But I mean, I feel like that's the smart thing to do, though, even as a player or a head coach, is try not to dip your toes in what the outside noise is because it's not great right now for the Cardinals.
Yeah. All right. Favorite moment, or JV, you got a favorite moment?
Favorite moment. I don't know. I really loved the whole cold weather sequence. That's something that, like, we just don't deal with here. And so to see them not only practicing in the rain, but like all of them just kind of like joking about it, how cold it was. Then like the guys from the Midwest and out east, like you're like, oh, we shouldn't like feel like this is cold, but yet we're still cold. It's like, oh look, like people can finally understand how we feel. Like, you get acclimated to that 115 here, and like when it gets to 70, yeah, we get a little cold.
Unless
Sorry,
your name is
rest
Luke.
of the
Luke doesn't
world.
like the heat. Luke don't do the heat.
I don't do the heat, but it was hilarious how JJ's like, JJ Watt, he's like, this isn't cold. What do you got? What do you got? It's like 65 degrees. It's raining. It's not even a
Luke,
big deal.
that's the same dude that dips himself in the ice, like as his workout. He's like, we just got done squatting 600. Let's go ice fishing with our feet out there in Wisconsin somewhere. I definitely feel you, JV. Like, I hate cold weather, but it was cool to see them get after that. It's just cool to see them practice because just like the viewers at home, just because we get to go to practice every day doesn't mean we get to see them throughout their entire practice, their interactions. We watch probably the first 15, 20 minutes. We watch them stretch. We know how to stretch like NFL players because we see it every day. Other than that, that's all we get to see. So I thought that part was cool. Lina, what else did you like the behind the scenes stuff that we normally don't get to see?
I mean, really anything inside the facility because we don't really get to see too much. But I really loved the moments of Buda Baker really being mic'd up and being the heart of this team. Again, the impassioned speech that he gave after that loss. They're in the middle of their post-game prayer and he rises up, and Kyler even set it up saying, that's the guy I want to go to war for. And everyone knows why. And we all know why, but we just saw it on a whole nother level. I really love that. And then he even incorporated his sign language. I mean, that's a fact that maybe a lot of people don't know about him, that he studied sign language at UW, but I'm looking forward to seeing all of these guys outside of their element. We saw Isaiah Simmons and D-Hop going to a local restaurant. I don't want to get it wrong. Bacanora in Phoenix. And so we got to not only support a local business, but see the Clemson guys who Isaiah said D-Hop is his closest friend, one of his closest friends in the locker room, kind of getting outside of football and showing these guys are real humans. They're humanizing these players because at the end of the day, they're tired, they're hungry, they want to eat some wings, they got to get some tacos, they want to, before that game, actually D-Hop was doing his Sunday rituals with the guys at his house, that either stopped by, I think, to maybe detail his car that he's taken in. So I mean, I love any time that you get to see these guys outside of their element and being actual humans. So
we talked to the director last week, and he said basically what Hard Knocks, the mindset is better than anybody's to humanize them. It's not a football show, even though it's about football. They characterize it as not a football show. It's a character show. It's a human show, which is why they, pick somebody like a Buddha. They take you behind the scenes with Isaiah and Hop. And the director told me as soon as it seems like they're hamming it up for the camera, they'll turn the cameras off. I will say this, though. That interview, or when Simmons and Isaiah Simmons and DeAndre Hopkins were sitting there eating, that seemed a little staged.
It did seem a little forced. Like,
have you guys watched this show? I mean,
it seemed a little forced.
Guys taking their kids to Disneyland in the middle of training camp or on a,
we would love to.
We gotta get the
JV,
content.
You want to go to Disneyland?
Hello.
Luke, you want to go to Disneyland in the middle of training camp? I'd love to take a day off and go to Disneyland.
A couple of my favorite moments. They're quick moments. when the Seahawks iced the game with the bootleg, Noah Fant, huge reception.
Luke, I think you tweeted about that because earlier in the episode, like Vance pointed that out, and I know we all heard this after the game, like they can't cover tight ends. They still, I don't know how many times that we're going to watch the Cardinals have that tight end drag across the field or do something like that.
We talked about the boot.
And so what that tells me, and it kind of goes back to the beginning, Luke. I'm glad you brought that up, but it's like at the beginning, coaches were calling out players for their lack of effort at times. And then at the end, you had Vance like, this is what we talked about all week, and still you guys can't not executing it, and you missed it. I think fans get that confused a lot of times. Like, why can't Vance Joseph's defense cover tight ends or cover this? They talked about it.
Vance isn't the one out there playing either. He's not the one out there playing.
I think that's a big component. We said that earlier in the year that, especially after game one, guys weren't doing what they were coached to do. Here we are 9-10 weeks later. Guys are still struggling to do what they're coached to. I like that you brought that up, Luke. Same thing. What about the boot? Yeah.
Oh my God, we saw it earlier in the episode. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, how'd you not cover that?" Easy for me to say though, sitting on the couch. I loved, like I mentioned earlier in this Zoom, the conversation between D Hop and Kyler, and kind of how they're human, they're frustrated. Clearly, D Hop missed 6 games of the season. He wants to get back in the field. He wants to win. He's the best player out there. And when you miss those opportunities, I can imagine the frustration and just those little details. I really enjoyed those. And like Lina talked about, Buddha. In the huddle, and it's fun how they really hone in on just a couple different like characters throughout the show. So I'm excited to see who will kind of be in the spotlight next week. It depends obviously how the game goes, but
real quick. And then it also pointed out where Kyler hurt his hamstring, Lee, you mentioned earlier, but he hurt it a few plays before he fumbled the ball, and it looked like he really kind of tweaked it when he did fumble the ball because he was like leaning over, falling, stretching out that leg. That's where Kyler hurt. Looked like Buddha hurt his ankle towards the end of the game. But that was something he was battling coming in. Real quick, JV, what did y'all make of that interaction between Hop and Kyler? Because that's probably what people are going to dissect most leaving from this, just because it's what we've seen most of the headlines about, arguments between head coach, player, guys frustrated on the sidelines. What did you make of that exchange, Divvy? Was it as spicy as the TV cameras made it look Sunday?
I think that's exactly what it was. It wasn't as spicy. It was just two guys who want to win. Like, that's their biggest thing. And Hop's just like, Hop is doing what he's supposed to as a wide receiver. He's saying, hey, look, I'm the best wide receiver in this game, and I'm wide open. Throw me the ball. And Kyler's just like, they just get into it. You're a little frustrated on the sideline. It happens. It's football. Like, sometimes you're going to yell at your teammates. I only played high school football, but like I yelled at my teammates sometimes. It happens. Like, it is what it is. But like, it definitely, like, how the TV cameras made it look was that, like, these two guys were angry at each other. They're mad. Like, they're trying to, like, put almost like a divide. But no, it's just like two guys competing. They're desperately hoping for a win to save their season, and that's just what happened. And so I think that was good to see and good to hear what they said.
Does it seem like Kyler can dish it out but can't take it a little bit? Like, whenever someone snaps at him, he tends to just shut it down immediately, or is that just me? Just a little bit.
Maybe a little.
I think there's some of that in there, Luke. I think that's kind of always been Kyler. Not necessarily that he can't take criticism. He's not a big fan of it. You know what I mean? He's played at such a high level, and really who is, ought to be real, but like, he's played at such a high level his whole career. I feel like he thinks part of the time it's maybe not him because he sees the game a little differently. And that's what makes those exchanges so interesting, to go back and forth. But it was definitely not the blow up that I think all of us thought watching their Sunday. You were like, man, Kyler's mad, Hop's mad. It definitely wasn't that.
Well, I think when I saw it, it was the body language of Kyler doing this that really kind of got people to say, what's going on? When you have those emotions and talking with your hands captured without the context, it's going to be taken into whatever direction. And I asked DeAndre straight up, this is a topic of conversation. How do you feel about the interactions with Kyler? He said, man, we're just playing football. Nobody gets on Tom Brady when he gets like that, which I will say, sure they do, but also Tom Brady.
They do. Every time Tom Brady throws a tablet,
I will say, even
the most popular tweet.
Absolutely. Which we did see Kyler taking his frustrations out on a tablet with his forehead earlier in the season.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we did.
Thankfully, he didn't have to enter concussion protocol after that. But
I remember that.
I will say, we see this happening on the sidelines, but it doesn't seem like anyone is blowing it out of proportion. We saw Cliff kind of bringing the offense together immediately after. Again, we're hearing him cuss. It seems like there's more spicy talk in the film room and in the rooms where these guys are watching themselves play the week before, and seeing that lack of effort or that lack of executing, which again, we've heard is the issue, the translation from practice to game day to full speed. Something is not crossing over, and these guys are going to have to figure it out on worldwide television now, on prestige television. And they said that these guys, the cameras, they're pretty much non-existent. They don't know where they are or what they're going to get. And we're going to see what's really going down behind the doors when there's another L on the record.
Or how about Steve Keim and Michael Bidwill were watching the game, and
with Governor Ducey.
Yes, you could notice their body language changing near the end of the game. Keim was just so frustrated, like, oh my goodness, here again. We lost again.
You know, it's interesting. Lina and I were just talking about that before we started this. Like, so we've seen plenty of cutaways throughout the years of, you know, Steve and Michael. They always sit up there, right? Family, you know, that's kind of the owner's section. And, you know, Steve can get very animated when watching the game. He can also get very down. Like, he looked extremely uncomfortable next to his boss, watching this roster underperform. Like, that is just if you could imagine your worst day on the job or a bad day on the job, and not only do you have to, you know, watch it unfold or whatever, but then to sit next to your boss who is like hanging on every moment, and here you are trying to calculate what to do next. I mean, he just looked incredibly uncomfortable next to Michael. Not that their relationship is bad or anything. I'm just saying he just looked very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Cliff might not watch the show. I wonder if Steve Keim and Michael Bidwill are watching at home.
All right, guys, let's wrap this up here real quick. JV will go around the horn here real quick. What do you want to see next week?
I mean, I want to see them get a win over the Rams. Like, that's really what I want to see.
Happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
That's the issue.
They're going to play a fourth-string quarterback, and there we go.
Yeah, and I really want to see how they react, like, to all the injuries that they've had. I mean, we saw Buda get hurt. We saw Kyler tweak his hamstring. You know, and those are two on top of an already super long list of injuries that they have. So just to see how they kind of like get through that, I think that'll be interesting to see.
Luke, how about you? What do you want to see next week?
Well, we'll have to see the severity of Kyler's hamstring injury, but I would love to kind of get an in-depth look at maybe not rehab, that, you know, take that with a grain of salt, but his rehab or recovery to try to get that hamstring back to 100%, and just the effort it might take to get him game day ready. I think that'd be really cool. And it was great to see him in the film room.
Yeah, because he has to play. I mean, they got to win out, right, Luke? Like, there's no room. 3 games back in Division 8 to go. Like, their playoffs technically start today, yesterday, Monday. You know what I mean, right? Like, there's no – you could do Colt McCoy. By the way, Sam Bradford in concussion protocol earlier in this week. So Sam Bradford.
Matthew Stafford.
Excuse me.
That's a throwback.
Man.
I was like, Sam, what do?
We got bad, man. They haven't played this bad since 2018. Matthew Stafford in concussion protocol. So, I mean, he has to play, right? They can't hold him out, Luke.
Yeah, so hopefully it's just a minor tweak. But, yeah, I don't think you can roll the dice and risk it. You know, I mean, Colt McCoy has a good backup, but the season legitimately is on the line, and he's got to play.
Yeah. Lina, what do you want to see?
Again, I would love to see a win. I know the storyline that we follow is the Cliff and Sean lopsided rivalry. What is it? Cliff's 1-11 against Sean.
I thought you were going to say bromance, because they are best friends.
That too. Yeah, they are but also maybe bro enemies, because they need to beat each other to get to what they all ultimately train and work.
They got played twice a year.
Yeah, well, hey, the Cardinals are looking to beat a division opponent just once. They're still waiting for their first win over a division opponent. They got this week against the Rams. They got next week in Mexico, which I'm looking forward to seeing how the HBO and NFL Films cameras captures all the flavor of Mexico City. I'm sure we're going to get some very quotable moments from the guys who might be experiencing international travel or just something completely new as an NFL player in this kind of stage. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing some of the storylines we get to meet. Hopefully, Koa Watt, the newest talent, athletic talent. If
Zach
if he
Zach
so
Ertz's baby
chooses.
too.
Yeah, Madden Ertz too.
Yeah,
Madden Ertz.
baby Baker as well. I would just love to see the families. We love to see Mary getting her shine today, Buddha's sister, who he protected earlier this year when a fan got a little too excited and pulled up to his house. So, yeah, hopefully we get a win and we can talk about some lighter, less ominous episodes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they transition. You know, they shot so much. The director told me they only air about 1% to 2% that they shot. So that just tells you how much they actually do shoot throughout. So they shot so much leading up to it. I'm just curious to see what they weave in. They weaved in a little bit. You saw they started with the Vikings game in this episode. They went back to the Raiders game. Like, what else can they weave in through the first 8 weeks of the season? The season has gone such a drastic turn, like, right in a way that I'm not sure much of the first half is relevant anymore. So if it's just live reaction to what's happening during the week and it's all new stuff, that'll be pretty cool to see moving forward. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Tell everybody bye. Luke, thanks for joining us from your house. We're going to get you something for that wall back there. Right?
Please do. I'm channeling my inner Cliff. There's nothing on the wall.
There's nothing on the wall. Open your windows like Cliff. We'll see you next week, guys.